Welcome to this session on moving the WorkSets to a separate drive. Now remember, this is an optional step, but a lot of times users would prefer to keep the workspace on a drive that's only accessible to the CAD administrators while they want that workset information or the project information to be in a separate folder, a separate drive where it's accessible to all users. So currently we've set up this W drive with the CE configuration. We have our workspace folder here, and we've created the XYZ workspace or our company workspace. And under that is a folder for the standards for the company workspace as well as the worksets themselves. Within that worksets folder are the configuration files for the worksets and then the actual folders that contain all the design files and other data for each workset. And it's these folders that you might potentially want to put somewhere else. So I have set up, for instance, a P drive where I store project folders. You can see I've got a couple in here from SS6. So I'm going to select the project template as well as any project folders that I have created. And I'm simply going to do a cut and paste over to the P drive. So that now those project folders are out on my P drive where users have access to them. Note though that I'm leaving the configuration files on my W drive since those are something you really only want CAD administrators to be able to edit. Now, since we've actually moved information from its default location, this is where we would have to make a change in the configuration setup for OpenBuildings Designer. So there's actually just one variable that I need to modify. And in order to do that, I'm going to open up the Configuration Explorer. This is a nice tool for looking at and editing your configuration files. This is available from the Fulfillment Center. It's a free download, and we'll take a look at that. So when the Configuration Explorer opens up, I'm going to select the application, which will be OpenBuildings Designer Connect Edition. If it's the first time that you've opened the Configuration Explorer, you can go to the Open Application Manager to select the applications that should appear in this pull-down. And then we're going to select our workspace. So I want my XYZ workspace, and I can select any of the projects that I have in there. I'll select the project 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to process. And basically that processes all the configurations that apply to that application, workspace, and workset. And then we can go in and research the variables and what is being set and actually modify it and make changes to them. So once that's done processing, I'm going to open up the Variable Explorer. And this lists all the variables, the different variables that get set in the configurations. And we can filter on that list. So I'm going to type in workset to find variables that apply to the workset. And if we scroll down here, there is a variable which is the UStation workset root. So this defines the folder where those projects or those workset folders are stored, or the location where they are stored. And we can see if we kind of look across here, that is being set by two other variables being the worksets. Notice there's an S there, worksets root, and the UStation workset name. So if I go on down just a few more down there, I can find that variable UStation worksets root, and I can go across here and I can see that that is set to the W drive under my CE configurations folder, under WorkSpaces, XYZ workspace, and that workset folder. That's where it's going to look for the configuration files. So that's fine. We left the configurations there. But it's this variable up here, the workset root, that we need to reset so it looks then on the P drive. And essentially, we want to tell it to look on the P drive and then look for that workset name. So first thing I'm going to do is right-click on that UStation workset root variable, and I'm going to select Copy, just to be sure I get the variable right when I go to make the modifications. So I'll go ahead and close the Variable Explorer. Now I'm going to open the file history. Now the file history gives you a list of the history of configuration files, so all the configuration files that are read for OpenBuildings Designer. And it's really these last couple of config files that you would interact with. For instance, the standards.config or the XYZ workspace.config, which reads the workspace, or the project 123 config, which would be reading the project. So we're going to make a modification here, and we're going to make it in this workspace config, the company workspace config. By making the modification here and in the workspace config, we will only have to do it once, and then it will apply to every project within that workspace. So then over here on the right, I'll scroll through the configuration file. We can see there's just a few variables that are set here. And I'm going to add one more. So we're just going to paste. This will paste that UStation WorkSet root variable that I just copied. And the copy and paste just ensures that we haven't made any typos there. And let me just tab over, and we're going to use an equal sign to define that variable. And then we want to set it to our P drive. So that's P:// or wherever you have decided to locate those worksets. And then I want to add here the variable for the workset name. So whichever workset name you select from the pull down, when you open OpenBuildings Designer, then it's going to select that folder. So to set that variable, I'm going to type in the $, and then a parentheses, and then this particular variable is underbar USTN underbar workset name, and we'll close the parentheses, and then another /. So I want to save those changes to the configuration file, and then I'm going to rescan the workspace so that it picks up the change that we just made. I'll go ahead and close the file history. I'm going to go back and open the variable Explorer just to check. Type in workset again. And here is our workset root variable now. And we can see that this has now been redefined so that the expansion is the P drive project 123. So that's exactly correct. Notice that that then expands out some of the other variables, such as the workset standards, which will now be on the P drive project 123 standards folder. So everything looks good. I'm going to close my configuration Explorer and go ahead and open up OpenBuildings Designer. So I just want to make sure I'm using my company workspace, the XYZ workspace, and I'm going to select the project 123 as the project. So note that if I were to select the new file icon, it's going to create that new file in the P project 123 designs folder. So we'll go ahead and call this Model 2. And if I again go and open the Families and Part Editor, we can see now we have the project information or the workset information on the P drive, whereas the workspace is on the W drive, my XYZ workspace, and the delivered content is on the C drive. And if I were to expand that project folder, you can see I still have my architectural parts XML with the wall component and the brick that we copied in there earlier. So I have separated the project data out into a separate location outside of the workspace. Now in the next session, we'll take a look at actually creating an organization data set, meaning that rather than using the delivered content, you could create a very custom data set for the company, and then perhaps use the workspaces for grouping projects together, such as for a particular client or for a particular building type.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.